Deep in the misty mountains of Japan lies a forgotten village, a place erased from maps, yet never from memory. They say that on a rainy night, when the wind falls silent, you might hear it. A faint knock on your window. And a whisper, soft and trembling. Let me in. Whatever you do, don't answer. Chapter 1, The Whisper Beneath the Rain. It was raining again that night. The kind of rain that doesn't cleanse, it clings. The droplets slid down the wooden walls of my old house like tears from the forest itself. The air reeked of wet soil and old incense, that smell you only notice when you've been away from the countryside too long. I had returned to my hometown, Kagami Village, after 12 years, a small, forgotten place somewhere deep in Yamanashi, surrounded by mountains that looked more like giant tombstones under the fog. My parents' house stood near the edge of the forest, the same one where the villagers used to whisper about the woman who called from windows at night. I'd thought those stories were just that, stories. But the first night I came back, I heard it. It was around midnight when the electricity went out. The rain was still falling, but quieter now, like it didn't want to be heard. I lit an old candle and sat in the living room, staring at the black window. My reflection wavered on the glass, pale, uncertain, almost not mine. Then came the voice. Greater than, let me in. Soft, female, so close that I thought someone was standing just outside the window. But when I looked, there was nothing, only the reflection of the candle flame trembling on the glass. Greater than, it's cold. My blood froze. The voice was clearer this time. I could hear it inside the house, behind me, yet the window was still closed. I turned, but the room was empty. Only the faint creak of the old floorboards answered me. And then, I saw the handprint. A wet, pale handprint smeared across the inside of the window. Long fingers, slender, pressed against the glass from within. The candle flickered violently, and for a second, just a breath, I saw something standing by the window. A woman with hair dripping water, her face hidden behind strands of black, her lips trembling as if she wanted to speak again. Greater than, you came back. Then the candle went out. The rain fell harder. And in the darkness, I realized, the whisper wasn't coming from outside the house anymore. It was coming from the walls. Chapter 2, The Walls Remember. When morning came, I wasn't sure if I had truly slept, or just stared into the dark until the first light forced its way through the curtains. My throat was dry, my body stiff. I didn't dare to look at the window again. The handprint was gone, but I could still feel it there, like a shadow imprinted in my mind. Every time I blinked, I saw those wet fingers spreading across the glass again, reaching. I went outside to breathe, to prove to myself that the world was still real. The air smelled like cedar and rain. Mist rolled down from the forest, curling between the houses like silent spirits. The village hadn't changed much, same cracked road, same shrine gate at the hill's base, same feeling of being watched. Old woman Matsui, my neighbor from years ago, was sweeping the path near her porch. Her back was bent, her eyes dull but sharp when they met mine. You shouldn't stay here, she muttered, not looking at me. The house remembers who it wants. I forced a smile. It's just an old building. I grew up here. She shook her head slowly. No, boy, that house isn't the same since that night. You should have let it rot. I wanted to ask her what she meant, but her eyes shifted to the window behind me. The color drained from her face. Did she talk to you? My mouth went dry. Who? Matsui didn't answer. She only whispered, don't open the window after midnight. Then she turned away and shut her door with trembling hands. That night, I sat awake again. No lights, no rain this time, only the sound of the clock ticking somewhere in the house. Every creak of the wooden floor sounded alive. I could almost feel the house breathing around me. Then, a faint scratching. From behind the wall. Right where the voice had been. I pressed my ear against the plaster. Greater than SCRCH. You came back. The whisper returned, softer now, sadder. It wasn't a threat this time. It sounded like someone trapped behind the walls, begging to be remembered. I tried to pull away, but something knocked back. 3 times. From inside the wall. The air turned cold, my breath misted. I could smell something, damp wood, rot, and a faint scent of incense and seawater. Then I heard her clearly. Greater than, I'm still here. The wall pulsed beneath my hand. Warm, like skin. Chapter 3, The Shrine Keeper's Warning. The next morning, the village was wrapped in fog so thick it swallowed everything beyond 10 steps. The trees along the road looked like silhouettes of people, still. Silent, watching. I went to the old shrine on the hill. My grandmother used to say the place protected Kagami Village from the spirits that crossed through mirrors and windows. Back then, it sounded like superstition. Now, it felt like the only thing that made sense. The shrine keeper, a frail man with white hair tied behind his neck, was sweeping fallen leaves from the stone steps when I arrived. He didn't seem surprised to see me. You're from the Takeda house, aren't you? He asked, without lifting his head. Yes, I said. I came back after 12 years. He stopped sweeping. The silence between us felt heavy. That house should have been burned, he whispered, after what happened to your mother. My stomach twisted. What do you mean? He finally looked up, his eyes clouded but piercing. She opened the window. I froze. The villagers told you she went missing in the flood, didn't they? He continued. But the truth is, she wasn't taken by water. She answered the voice. The wind moved through the trees, carrying the faint chime of bells from the shrine's roof. The spirit that speaks through glass, he said slowly, is called Mizu-Onna, the water woman. She was once human, drowned in the river when the village offered her as a sacrifice during the famine. They sealed her spirit inside mirrors and windows to keep her from wandering. But when the seals weaken, he looked at me gravely. She calls for someone to take her place. I felt my skin crawl. Why me? The old man didn't answer. He only pointed toward my arm. When I looked down, there were faint wet fingerprints on my sleeve, 5 slender marks that hadn't been there before. You've already heard her, he said. It's too late to ignore the call. Whatever you do, never speak back. That night, I dreamt of my mother. She was standing by the window, smiling. Her lips moved soundlessly, but behind her, the glass rippled like the surface of a pond. When I woke up, my pillow was soaked with cold water. And the whisper was waiting for me again. Greater than, why didn't you answer? Chapter 4, The Photograph in the Drawer. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. Why didn't you answer? The same soft, watery voice echoing inside my skull like it came from beneath a lake. The walls still felt damp. The air reeked faintly of mold and incense. I lit a candle and decided to search the old study, my father's room. He had locked it after my mother disappeared, and no one entered it since. The air inside was stale, filled with dust and the faint scent of old paper. Stacks of books, faded photographs, and boxes cluttered the shelves. Everything looked untouched, frozen in time. Then I saw it, the drawer beneath the desk, slightly open. Inside was a pile of old family photos tied with red string. Most were harmless, images of my parents, the house, the village festival, until I reached the last one. It was a picture of my mother standing by the window, smiling faintly. Her reflection was visible on the glass, except it wasn't her reflection. In the reflection stood another woman, half submerged in water, her hair floating around her face like seaweed, her eyes open but lifeless. My hands began to tremble. On the back of the photo, written in faded ink, were the words, "Greater than, do not look when she calls." The candle flickered, once, twice, then blew out on its own. The window behind me creaked open, just a few centimeters, though I hadn't touched it. Cold air swept through the room, carrying the smell of river water. "Greater than, you look just like her." The whisper slid across my ear, closer than before. I turned, no one was there. But on the desk, drops of water were forming, one by one, spelling something across the wood. Letmesee. My chest tightened. I slammed the drawer shut and backed away. The candle rolled off the desk and fell to the floor, its weak flame dying in the puddle of water spreading beneath my feet. For a moment, I thought I saw her, in the dark reflection of the window, standing inside the glass, pressing her pale face against it, whispering without sound. Greater than, she showed me the way. The next morning, the photo was gone. Only the wet outline of the red string remained on the desk. Chapter 5: The Reflection in the Well. By the 5th day, the rain hadn't stopped. The sky above Kagami Village hung low and heavy, as if pressing down on the mountains themselves. Water flowed down every gutter, every crack in the stone paths, whispering like countless voices in the dark. The villagers avoided my eyes now. When they saw me walking down the road, they would bow their heads and turn away. I heard them whisper the word Kershi, the returned one. I didn't understand what it meant, but I knew where to find answers. At the center of the village stood an ancient well, sealed with wooden planks and bound by thick ropes covered in white paper charms. My mother had forbidden me from going near it when I was young. She said it was where the window woman lived before she found her glass prison. Now, I stood before it again. The charms had long rotted away. The ropes were wet and black with mold. I knelt down and peered between the cracks. The darkness below was endless, swallowing the weak beam of my flashlight. But then, the surface shimmered. And there she was. Not her face, just her reflection. A pale shape in the water, standing where I stood, moving when I didn't, her head tilted slowly, unnaturally, as if watching me from beneath the surface. The voice came again, faint but echoing through the hollow air. Greater than, you saw her picture, didn't you? My heart hammered in my chest. Who are you? Greater than, I was her voice, before she left me here. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of river silt and decay. I stepped back instinctively, but the reflection followed, climbing closer to the surface. The water rippled like breathing. Greater than, she promised she would return. She lied, but you came instead. The planks over the well began to creak and shift. One of the charms tore loose and drifted down like ash. I tried to step back, but the ground beneath me softened, sinking like wet sand. Hands, wet, cold hands, reached up from the cracks, grasping my ankles. Greater than, look at me. I fell to my knees. The water below churned, revealing a faint face, her eyes black as the river's depth. Mouth open in a silent scream. Greater than, let me out. With all my strength, I broke free and stumbled backward. The hands vanished. The well grew still again. Only the reflection remained, smiling faintly now, my mother's smile. I ran. When I finally reached home, the window was already open. And in the reflection of the glass, she was waiting. Chapter 6: The Night of the Returning. The night came without warning, no stars, no moon, only the wind, and the distant sound of water moving somewhere it shouldn't. I had nailed every window shut, sealed the cracks with salt and paper charms I bought from the shrine. Still, I could feel her. She was close. The air inside the house felt heavy, humid, every breath thick with the smell of the river. My phone had stopped working. The clock on the wall had frozen at 12:01. Then came the first sound. Drip, drip, drip. Water began to leak from the ceiling, not clear rainwater, but dark, murky liquid. It pooled at my feet, cold as ice. And then, the whisper. Greater than, you shouldn't have looked into the well. The voice came from the window, though it was still boarded shut. I stepped closer, trembling, candle in hand. Shadows rippled across the wooden boards like something moving behind them. Greater than, you saw her reflection, now she can see you. The boards began to creak, the nails groaning as if pulled from the inside. I backed away, heart racing. Every charm on the walls started to peel off one by one, as if something invisible brushed past them. From the corner of the room, I saw the mirror on the wall fog up. Words formed across its surface, written backward in dripping water. It's time to come home. The temperature dropped sharply, my breath came out in mist. And then I saw her, standing inside the mirror, pressing her face against the glass. Her eyes milky white, her mouth moving silently. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood my mother, her expression blank, her eyes empty. She whispered something I couldn't hear, then slowly raised her hand and placed it on the mirror's surface. The mirror began to ripple like water. The candle flame flared violently and went out. Greater than, the night of returning has begun. The voice came from everywhere, the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Water began to gush from the cracks, flooding the house in seconds. I tried to run, but the door wouldn't move. Then I saw it, pale fingers pushing through the mirror. grasping for me. The surface of the glass stretched, tearing like thin ice. Her face broke through first, wet hair, skin grey and slick, lips twisted into something between sorrow and hunger. Greater than, you came back, now you'll stay. I screamed and stumbled backward, into the darkness, into the rising water, as her reflection reached out and pulled me under. Chapter 7, The Drowned Path. When I opened my eyes, everything was silent. No rain, no wind, only the faint echo of dripping water somewhere far away. I was lying on a stone path, cold, slick, half submerged in shallow water. The air around me shimmered faintly, as though I were underwater but could still breathe. The village was still there, the same houses, the same shrine gate, but everything was wrong. The sky was the color of bruised flesh, grey and violet, pulsing faintly like something alive. The houses stood at crooked angles, their reflections rippling beneath them. The trees swayed without wind, and beneath the surface of the water, I could see faces, pale, unmoving, staring upward. It was Kagami Village, drowned. I stood, every step sending small waves across the flooded road. The silence pressed against my ears. My reflection followed me in the water, but it lagged, a half-second slower than my movement. Then I heard the bell. A faint, metallic chime from the hill. The shrine was still there, but its torii gate leaned sideways, half sunken. I began to walk toward it, drawn by the sound. My footsteps echoed strangely, not on stone, but like walking on glass. Along the way, I passed a house that looked just like mine. The window was open. Inside, a woman sat motionless by the sill, her hair floating gently as if underwater. Her lips moved soundlessly. When I stepped closer, she turned her head, and I saw my mother's face, pale and lifeless. She raised her hand and pointed toward the shrine. Greater than, she's waiting. The voice didn't come from her mouth, it came from the reflection of her face in the window. I ran. As I reached the hill, the water grew deeper, rising to my knees, then my waist, cold, heavy. It pulled at me, whispering softly. Beneath the surface, I saw movement, shadows gliding below, circling. When I finally reached the shrine, the bell stopped ringing. There, standing in the flooded courtyard, was the Mizu-Onna. Her long hair drifted around her like smoke. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, like trapped light from the bottom of the sea. She smiled, not cruelly, but almost tenderly. Greater than, this is where I wait for them all, she said, for those who open the window. I trembled. Why me? Greater than, because you listened. Her hand rose slowly from the water, droplets sliding down her wrist like threads of silver. Greater than, the living forget. But you came back, you remembered me. Behind her, the shrine bells began to toll again, each sound deeper, slower, as if coming from the bottom of the world. And in their echo, I saw hundreds of faces beneath the water, villagers, old and young, their eyes wide open, their mouths moving in unison. Greater than, stay with us. The water began to rise again, swallowing the steps of the shrine. I turned to run, but the path behind me was gone. Only endless water. And when I looked down, my reflection was smiling, though I wasn't. Chapter 8, The Eyes Beneath the Surface. The water was still rising. It reached my chest now, cold and heavy, pulling at my breath. Every ripple seemed alive, whispering, shifting, watching. I realized the faces beneath the surface weren't only the dead. Some of them were still moving. Their eyes followed me as I tried to wade toward the shrine's torii gate, their lips forming silent words that the water swallowed before they reached me. Then I heard it, the faint, rhythmic sound of breathing, coming from beneath my feet. The water began to shimmer, and from the reflection, hundreds of eyes opened all at once. Eyes that didn't blink, eyes that didn't belong to humans anymore. Each eye reflected a different image, the village, the forest, the houses, like fragments of a shattered mirror showing the world above. Greater than, they're all watching you. Her voice came from behind me. I turned, and there she was again, Mizu-Onna. Her form wavered between solid and liquid, as if her body was made of memory and water intertwined. Greater than, they are the ones who looked when they shouldn't have. Every soul that answered the call, now trapped in reflection. Her eyes glowed faintly beneath the water's surface, And I finally saw the truth. Every reflection in the water was one of them. Every mirror, every window, every drop of rain, their prison. Greater than, and my mother? I asked. She's one of them, isn't she? Mizu-Onna tilted her head slightly, her voice calm but sharp as glass. Greater than, no, she tried to break the seal, to free me, but when she failed, she became the new one to hold it shut. The realization hit me like ice. The house, the whispers, the photo, she hadn't vanished. She was still there, trapped inside the boundary, keeping the spirit locked away all these years. Greater than, if you open the window, Mizu-Onna whispered, stepping closer, she'll finally be free, both of us will. Her words felt heavy, too heavy, like they were sinking into me. The reflection of her face rippled in the water at my feet, and in that reflection, I saw my mother standing beside her, smiling faintly, nodding once. Greater than, please, my mother's reflection mouthed, let me go. For a brief, foolish second, I wanted to. But then I looked deeper, and saw hundreds of faces below. Their mouths open in silent screams. Reaching up, they weren't asking to be freed. They were begging not to be replaced. The realization froze my heart. That's what returning meant. When you open the window, one soul leaves, and another takes its place. I stumbled back. No, I won't open it. The calm broke. The water erupted, sending waves crashing against the shrine. Her expression twisted, not in anger, but in hunger. Greater than, then you will take her place willingly. Her eyes turned black as the depths below, and the faces beneath the water opened their mouths in unison, whispering the same word again and again. Greater than, Kershi, Kershi, Kershi. The returned one. And then, from below, something grabbed my reflection, and began to drag it down. Chapter 9, The Window of Sacrifice. The storm had returned. Thunder rolled above the drowned sky, though there was no lightning, only a pale, shifting glow from beneath the water, like the pulse of a sleeping beast. I wandered through the village ruins, guided by the whispers. Every step I took sent ripples through the mirrored surface, and in each ripple I saw her face, my mother's reflection, watching me, pleading silently. Greater than, you can still save her. Mizu-Onna's voice echoed, coming from every direction, from the water, from the sky, from my own heartbeat. The window is waiting. I reached the house, or rather, its reflection. The wooden beams were half sunken, the roof bending under invisible weight. And there, in the middle of the room, floated a single window frame, standing upright, untouched by water, glowing faintly with a dull blue light. Inside the glass, I saw my mother. She looked younger, the same as I remembered her before she disappeared. Her hands pressed against the glass from inside, her lips forming my name over and over. Mom. Her eyes were full of tears, or maybe water. The pain trembled with each breath she took, as if the glass itself was alive. Then the reflection changed. Behind her, Mizu-Onna appeared, her hair drifting like black smoke, her arms slowly wrapping around my mother's shoulders. Greater than, she's tired. The spirit whispered, let her rest. The glass began to crack, thin, white lines spreading like veins of ice. Every instinct in me screamed to break it, to pull her out, but I remembered the shrine keeper's words. Greater than, whoever opens the window takes her place. The water around me began to rise again, swirling around the frame. Faces emerged from it, villagers, whispering Kershi in 1,000 broken voices. I pressed my hands against the glass. Mom, what do I do? Her eyes softened, she mouthed a single word. Greater than, run. But behind her, Mizu-Onna smiled. Greater than, she doesn't mean that. You came back for her. Open it. The cracks spread further, the glow intensifying, the air vibrated, thick with pressure. Greater than, if you leave now. The spirit hissed, she'll fade forever, you'll never hear her voice again. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I raised my hand, hesitating inches from the glass. I could feel its pull, warm and cold at once, like the heartbeat of something ancient. Then I saw it, my reflection beside hers. But the reflection was smiling, though I wasn't. Its lips moved first. Greater than, it's already open. The glass shattered. Water exploded outward, swallowing the house in a surge of darkness. I screamed, reaching for my mother, but her form dissolved into light, merging with the storm above. And through the roar, I heard her final whisper. Greater than, don't answer the voice. Then everything went silent. Chapter 10, The Village Without Shadows. When I opened my eyes, the rain had stopped. The water that had swallowed the village was gone. But so were the reflections. No puddles, no mirrors, no glass. Even the windows of the houses were dull, like painted wood, refusing to shine. And the strangest thing, there were no shadows. The sun hung pale in a grey sky, yet nothing cast darkness. My feet touched the ground, but left no trace. The air was dry, still, heavy, as if the world had forgotten how to breathe. I walked down the main road. The village looked exactly as before, yet eerily lifeless. Every door was open, but the houses were empty. Every wind chime hung motionless. Their glass cracked. Then I saw them. The villagers. They stood along the road, motionless, their faces turned toward the windows of their homes. Their eyes were wide and unblinking, as if they were waiting for something that was no longer there. I tried calling to them. No one moved. When I stepped closer, I realized why. They weren't people anymore. Their skin had hardened like porcelain, faintly reflecting light, the way water reflects just before it freezes. And their mouths, each one bore a faint, eternal whisper, like they were still speaking to something unseen beyond the glass. Greater than, she's coming. The voice came from behind me. I turned, but there was no one. Then the air rippled. The dull glass of a nearby window began to stir, faintly glowing from within. Slowly, a shape appeared on its surface, a woman's silhouette pressing from the other side. The glass cracked once, twice, and then she stepped through. Mizu-Onna, no longer bound to reflection. Her form was clearer now, not a ghost, not human. Her hair flowed endlessly, and her skin shimmered like water in moonlight. But her eyes were empty, cold. She moved among the statues of villagers, touching their faces. Wherever her fingers brushed, the surface rippled, and the villagers' eyes closed, one by one, as if finally sinking into sleep. Greater than, they were waiting for release. She said softly, now they have it. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. The ground beneath my feet rippled like a shallow pond. She turned to me, smiling faintly. Greater than, you opened the way. You broke the silence. You are the last one with a shadow. I looked down. She was right. The ground below me still held a faint outline, dark and trembling. Greater than, give it to me, she whispered, so I may become whole. The air thickened, humming with unseen energy. The villagers began to fade, their bodies dissolving into mist and droplets of light. The entire village was sinking into silence. I backed away, shaking my head. No. She reached out her hand, her voice a calm tide. Greater than, the world without reflection cannot exist. You must choose, to vanish with them, or to remain alone in silence. The last chime broke in the wind. And for the first time, I understood, the voice at the window wasn't calling for help. It was calling for balance. Chapter 11, The Shadow That Spoke My Name. I hadn't realized how heavy silence could be until that day. The wind no longer moved through the trees. The birds were gone, even the insects had stopped singing. Kagami Village had become a painting, perfect, motionless, and wrong. And yet, I could feel something following me. Every time I turned a corner, I heard footsteps, splashing faintly against the dry earth, as if someone were walking through invisible water. When I stopped, the sound stopped. When I breathed, the air behind me breathed too. Then I saw it. My shadow, stretching long across the cracked road, moving a second out of sync with me. When I raised my hand, it hesitated. When I stepped forward, it lingered behind. And then, it smiled. Greater than, you left me there, it said. The voice was mine, yet older, hollow, soaked in echo. My shadow straightened, peeling itself off the ground like smoke rising in reverse. Its edges flickered like dark water, forming into a faint shape that looked exactly like me, only pale, transparent, and trembling. Greater than, you left me in the water when you ran. I waited. My throat went dry. You're not me. Greater than, I am what looked back when you stared into the well. The part that answered. It stepped closer, the air around it warped. distorting light. Beneath its feet, faint ripples spread outward, though there was no water. Greater than, she gave me a voice. It whispered, "Now I can speak for her, through you." I stumbled back. "No, you're just a reflection. You don't exist outside the glass." The shadow smiled wider. "Neither do you anymore." Before I could react, it lunged forward, and its hand passed through my chest like a wave of cold mist. I gasped. My heart felt like it was being pulled in two directions, one beating here, the other somewhere beneath the surface. Images flashed before my eyes: the flooded village, my mother's face, Mizu-Onna's whisper, and 1,000 voices calling from the depths. Greater than, Kershi, Kershi, Kershi. The word burned inside me, echoing until it became my own voice. Greater than, return. My shadow pressed its forehead against mine. "Give me your light," it hissed. "Let me step where you stand. You've seen the other side, now it's my turn." I struggled to move, to breathe, but my body was locked. The world flickered, colors draining to gray. The shadow's form began to merge with mine, piece by piece, like ink spreading through clear water. And then, through the haze, I heard another voice, faint, distant, but familiar. Greater than, "Don't let it take your name." It was my mother's voice. For a moment, everything stopped. The shadow froze, trembling violently. The connection shattered, and it stumbled back, screaming soundlessly as cracks spread across its surface, light pouring through the fractures. Greater than, "You can't silence what remembers." It sank to the ground, melting into darkness, until all that remained was my faint, flickering shadow, lying at my feet once more. But something was wrong. It didn't move anymore. And when I looked down, I realized it wasn't following me at all. It was watching me. Chapter 12, The Sound of Glass Breaking. That night, the world began to fracture. It started with a faint hum, like the sound of wind passing through glass bottles. Then came the echoes. The air trembled, light shimmered, and every surface began to ripple as if the entire village were made of water pretending to be solid. I was standing in front of my house, staring at the window where everything began. Only now, it was different. There was someone inside. A silhouette, tall, still, with long dripping hair, pacing slowly back and forth behind the glass. Each time she passed, the surface cracked a little more, like ice underfoot. And every time the crack appeared, I could hear a scream somewhere far away, maybe from the other side, maybe from within my own head. The ground pulsed beneath me. The sky flickered like broken film. Reflections began to move on their own, in puddles, in shards of glass, even in my eyes. Then I heard it. The sound that had haunted me since the beginning, knuckles tapping against glass. Tock, tock, tock. Slow, patient. And this time, it came from every direction. I turned, every window in every house was trembling. Behind each pane, figures began to appear, pale faces pressing against the glass, eyes wide and empty. Some were villagers I recognized, some were strangers. All of them were looking at me. Greater than, he opened it. They whispered. He broke the seal. Now we are all seen. The sky split with a sound like shattering mirrors. From above, fragments of light fell like rain, each one showing an image as it descended: the well, the shrine, my mother's face, and Mizu-Onna rising from the depths, her arms outstretched as if embracing the world. I fell to my knees. The air was thick with shards of reflection, cutting through my skin like cold fire. Every wound dripped not blood, but water. Greater than, this world was built on lies, her voice said, echoing through the glass. A mirror turned backward. Now it's time for truth. The houses began to collapse inward, not crumbling, but folding, their walls bending into impossible angles, their windows opening to nothing. Through the cracks, I could see another world shimmering, dark, endless, rippling like the surface of a lake at night. She stepped out from my window then, Mizu-Onna, radiant and terrible. Her face was no longer hidden. She looked human, beautiful, familiar. She looked like my mother. Greater than, do you understand now? She whispered. We were never two. I am what she became, and what you are becoming. The ground split open beneath me, revealing the black water below. I could see myself in it, a reflection standing still, waiting, smiling faintly. And then, For the first time, my reflection spoke before I did. Greater than, it's your turn. The glass around me shattered all at once. The sound, piercing, endless, like the world itself was screaming. And then, silence. Only the drip of water, and the faint echo of my mother's lullaby carried through the dark. Chapter 13, The Face in the Water. When I opened my eyes again, the world was calm. The storm was gone. The village stood beneath a perfect, cloudless sky. The air smelled clean, fresh, too clean, too perfect. For a moment, I thought I'd survived, that somehow, I'd made it back. But then I noticed, the silence. No birds. No footsteps. Not even the sound of wind moving through the trees. And when I looked down at the road beneath me, I saw my reflection again. Only this time, it moved before I did. Where am I? I whispered. The reflection smiled faintly, tilting its head. Greater than, you already know. I turned in a slow circle. The houses stood as they always had, but every window was covered with a thin film of water, reflecting faint ripples even without wind. And in every reflection, I saw her face, Mizu-Onna, overlapping mine, whispering behind the glass. Greater than, there is no above or below anymore. No here, no there, you've crossed over. I tried to touch the nearest window, but my hand passed through, like pressing into cool liquid. The surface trembled, and for an instant, I saw what lay beneath, endless dark water, stretching forever. The voice came again, soft and near. Greater than, this is the mirror world, the other Kagami. It was always here, waiting for someone to remember it. My breath caught. Then, the real village. Greater than, gone. Or maybe this is the real one. You see, every reflection believes it's the first. Her laughter echoed faintly, rippling through the air like a melody played backward. I stumbled toward the shrine. It still stood, half sunken in the shallows. The bell hung motionless, its surface covered in thin water, reflecting both sky and depth. And in that reflection, I saw my mother again. She stood beside Mizu-Onna, their faces nearly the same. Her eyes met mine. Greater than, you did what I couldn't. She whispered, you ended the silence. The surface of the water shimmered, and for a brief second, I saw the truth. Her face was fading, dissolving into ripples of light that merged with Mizu-Onna's form. They were becoming one. Greater than, it's time. Mizu-Onna said gently, the reflection must have a keeper. I took a step back. No. Greater than, you heard the voice. You opened the window, you saw the other side. Now the mirror remembers your name. The ground beneath me turned to liquid, rippling outward. My reflection reached up from below, smiling. Its eyes were calm, almost kind. Greater than, don't be afraid. It said, you'll never be alone again. The last thing I saw before the surface closed over my head was the sky above, folding inward like paper. And my reflection, now standing where I once stood, blinked for the first time. Chapter 14, The Voice Returns. It had been 20 years since anyone mentioned Kagami Village. The mountains had swallowed the road that led there, maps no longer marked its name. People said the place was cursed, that those who went searching for it never came back. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. And some voices refused to stay silent. I was a journalist from Tokyo, drawn by old rumors and half-forgotten legends. The story of a drowned village and a voice calling from its windows fascinated me. I didn't believe in curses, I believed in truth. The path up the mountain was barely there. Trees had overgrown everything, roots breaking through the old asphalt. The forest was silent except for the occasional drip of water from branches above. Then, through the mist, I saw it, the Torii Gate. Half collapsed, covered in moss, yet unmistakably human. Beyond it lay the remains of the village. Every house stood intact, though time had frozen in mid-breath. The air smelled faintly of damp wood and something else, like a river that had forgotten to dry. I set up my camera and began taking pictures. Each flash of light felt wrong, the reflections in the glass seemed delayed. As though the images were thinking before reacting. Then, through my lens, I noticed something strange. In the window of a house near the forest edge, there was a face. A young man, pale, still, watching. I lowered the camera, heart racing, but the window was empty. Only the faint outline of moisture remained, shaped like a hand pressed against the glass. The sun began to set. I decided to stay one night. Foolish. I know. I set my tent near the old Takeda house, the one the locals whispered about. At midnight, the air grew thick, the trees stopped swaying, the temperature dropped suddenly, my breath turning to mist. And then I heard it. Greater than tap, tap, tap. A sound from the window of the old house. I turned slowly, flashlight trembling in my hand. The glass was dark, but behind it, something moved. Greater than, it's cold. The voice was faint, female, carried through the still air like a sigh. I froze. Who's there? Silence. Then, clearer. Greater than, let me in. The window began to fog from the inside. A handprint appeared, wet, perfect, slender fingers pressing against the glass. My heart pounded. I stumbled back, dropping my light, and in that flash of darkness before I picked it up again, I saw her, a woman, hair dripping, face pale, standing behind the window. But she wasn't looking at me. She was staring at her reflection, the faint outline of another face in the glass. A man's face. Smiling. Chapter 15, The Last Night in the Village. The night felt endless. The fog had thickened, swallowing the forest, the road, even the stars. My campfire had died hours ago, leaving only the faint sound of dripping water, though the air was dry. I sat inside the old Takeda house, flashlight dimming, notebook in hand. Every so often, I thought I heard something moving in the walls, a slow, dragging sound, like fingers tracing the inside of the wood. But I told myself it was wind. Just the wind. I turned my recorder on and whispered, Kagami Village, Day 1, no signs of life. But, the windows. I stopped. Because in the corner of my eye, I saw movement. The window beside me, the same one from the story, had begun to fog again. From the inside. And there it was, a shape. A person's face, pale and still, just beyond the glass. His lips were moving, but no sound came through. I stepped closer, my breath clouded the surface. Then, faintly, I heard him. Greater than, can you hear me? The voice was soft, male, almost pleading. His eyes were familiar, sad, tired, full of something that felt human. I whispered back before I could stop myself, who are you? He smiled faintly. Greater than, the one who answered. The glass shuddered, the reflection of my face began to waver, distorting, until his image overlapped with mine, two faces sharing one frame. The temperature dropped sharply, my breath froze in midair. Greater than, it's cold. My voice. But I hadn't spoken. The flashlight flickered and died. In the darkness, the only light came from the window, a faint blue glow. Like moonlight rippling on water. Through the trembling glass, I saw more faces appearing, dozens, hundreds, pressing forward from the other side. Men, women, children, all whispering in unison. Greater than, you heard us. You answered. Now stay. I stumbled back, but the floor felt soft, wet. I looked down. Water was seeping through the cracks in the wood, rising fast. The air filled with the sound of knocking, hundreds of hands beating on invisible walls. And beneath it all, her voice. Greater than, the window remembers. I turned one last time, and saw her. Mizu-Onna, standing behind the glass. Her eyes calm now, not haunting, not angry, just waiting. And beside her, the man's face, the same one from before, staring straight at me. Greater than, it's your turn, he whispered. The water reached my knees, then my chest. My notebook floated away. I pressed my hand against the glass, desperate, trembling, but it was warm. From the other side, he did the same. Our hands met. The surface rippled once. Then it broke. The cold rushed in like breath. And everything, the room, the light, the sound, dissolved into stillness. Dash dash dash. The next morning, the mountain was silent. Only the ruins of the old house remained. And on the fogged glass of a single window, a message was written in water. Greater than, let me in. Dash dash dash. Epilogue. Somewhere, miles away, a woman scrolling through old photos online pauses at one image, A shot of an abandoned Japanese village reflected in a puddle. She tilts her head. For just a moment, she thinks she sees a face in the window, smiling. Then a faint sound comes through her headphones, soft, rhythmic, almost like a whisper. Greater than tap, tap, tap. And from her laptop speaker, a voice murmurs. Greater than, can you hear me? No one remembers Kagami Village now. But sometimes, when it rains and you catch your reflection in the glass, look closely. Because someone, or something, might be looking back at you. And if you listen carefully, through the hum of the storm, you may still hear it. Tap, tap, tap. Can you hear me? Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.